The battlefield was burning. Ships were falling from the sky. The ground was shaking under fire. Smoke rose like mountains of black clouds, and among the ruins stood a warrior. She was tall, armored in silver, her eyes glowing like fire. She was feared across the stars, her name whispered like a curse among enemies. Her leader, the warlord of her clan, lay dying beside her, his chest broken, his breath shallow, his voice weak. Yet his pride unbroken, he lifted his hand toward her, his blood running over the dust, and he spoke. "You are the strongest of my warriors. You are the last of my blades. Promise me, when I am gone, you will serve only the strongest. You will never kneel to the weak." The warrior knelt, her armor cracked, her body bleeding, but her will harder than steel. She placed her fist over her heart, and she vowed, "I will serve the strongest. I will follow power, and I will obey it until my last breath." The warlord smiled, his last breath leaving him, and then his hand fell, lifeless, his eyes closed forever. The warrior bowed her head, her vow now a chain upon her soul, a chain she could never break. The battle ended. Fire consumed the field. The enemies moved on, and silence came, silence heavy with death, silence heavy with broken dreams. The warrior stood alone, her people gone, her leader gone, her vow burning inside her mind like fire. She stumbled through the ruins, her steps heavy, her wounds deep, her eyes scanning the dead, until she saw something strange. Among the bodies lay a human, a soldier, his armor torn, his body bleeding but his eyes still alive. He was no mighty warlord, no king, no champion of armies. He was just one man, weak compared to the giants she had known. The human tried to lift his weapon, his hand shaking, his breath ragged. He pointed it at her, his voice hoarse. "Stay back. I don't even know what you are." The warrior looked at him, her vow echoing in her head. Her body froze. Her instincts screamed that she must kneel. She fought it, she resisted. But the vow was stronger than her will. She dropped to one knee before him, her head lowered, her voice steady. "I am bound. You are the strongest left. My vow chains me to you. I will serve you." "Human." The soldier's eyes widened. He coughed blood, confusion in his gaze. "What are you talking about? I am dying. I am not strong. I am nothing." But the vow did not listen to his words. It only knew power. It only knew survival. And in that ruined battlefield, the human was alive while others were dead. He was the last, and to her vow, that was strength. The warrior lifted him in her arms, carrying him as if he weighed nothing. He struggled weakly. "Put me down, I don't need you. I don't want you," but her vow was law. And she whispered back, "You may not want me, but you cannot change what I am yours now." Until death, as she walked through the wreckage. The soldier kept staring at her, fear and disbelief in his eyes. He thought she was mad. He thought she was broken. Yet something inside him stirred. A question he could not answer. Why did this alien, this warrior, kneel to him? The night came, stars cold above, fires glowing below. The warrior built a shelter from broken steel. She watched over the soldier as he slept, his face pale, his breath weak but still alive, her vow binding her tighter with every heartbeat. When he woke, he whispered, "You should leave me. You should find someone stronger, someone worthy." She shook her head slowly, her eyes burning in the dim light. "You do not understand. I do not choose. The vow chooses, and it has chosen you. You are alive when others are dead. You are the strongest here, and so I serve you." The soldier turned away, silent, but inside him a storm was rising. He had never felt power, never felt control, never felt that anyone would kneel to him. Yet this alien warrior, this unstoppable fighter, now followed him like a shadow. The warrior sharpened her blade under the stars, her eyes on the horizon, her vow carved into her soul. She had promised to serve the strongest, and now she was bound. Bound to a human she did not understand. Bound to a man who did not want her. Bound to a fate that even she could not see, and in the distance, across the stars, whispers were already rising. Whispers of shame. Whispers of challenge. Whispers that the greatest warrior of the clan had bent her knee to a human soldier. Whispers that would soon turn into storms of blood and fire. But for now, only silence ruled the night. Only the vow echoed inside her. Only the strange bond of fate held them together. And as the soldier closed his eyes once more, the warrior stood guard, unblinking, unshaken, unbroken, for she had vowed to serve the strongest, and for reasons she could not yet understand. That strongest was him. The dawn rose over the battlefield, gray light touching broken ships and smoking ruins, the silence heavy after so much death. The warrior stood watch, her blade resting across her knees, her glowing eyes fixed on the human soldier who slept weakly under her protection. He stirred, coughing, his body still broken from the fight, his voice low but sharp. "Why do you keep watching me? Why do you guard me like I am some king? I am nothing, just a soldier left behind." The warrior did not move, her voice calm but unyielding. "You are alive when others are not. My vow sees life as strength, and strength commands me. You are my master now, whether you accept it or not." The soldier sat up with effort, anger in his eyes. "Master, don't call me that. I don't want your service, I don't deserve it. I don't even know your name." She looked at him long, then answered, "Names matter little, but you may call me Caliph, last blade of my clan, last keeper of my vow, and you, human, whether weak or strong, are the one I'm bound to, the human." Whose name was Elias clenched his fists, shame burning in him. He was not a hero, not a leader, just one man who had survived when better soldiers had died. The idea that this mighty warrior, feared across the stars, would kneel to him felt like mockery, felt like a cruel joke played by fate. Caliph rose, her silver armor scarred but gleaming, her height towering over him, her presence filling the broken camp like fire. Yet when she spoke, her voice was steady. "I do not mock you, Elias, I do not choose you. The vow chooses, and I obey. It is law written into my blood. Into my soul you cannot break it, and I cannot resist it." Elias shook his head, bitter. "Then your vow is broken. Because I am weak, I cannot protect you, I cannot lead you. I cannot even save myself." But Caliph stepped closer, her eyes glowing with quiet certainty. "Then I will protect you, I will lead you. I will save you until you find the strength you cannot yet see. Perhaps you are weak today, but tomorrow may change, and until then, my blade is yours." For the next days they walked together through ruins and silent lands, Elias struggling with each step, Caliph carrying him when his body failed. Always silent, always watchful, she did not rest, she did not complain. Her vow was iron, and Elias could not escape it. At night he asked questions. Though anger often laced his words, "Why obey so blindly? Why throw away your freedom for a chain?" Caliph would answer, her voice low. "It is not blindness, it is faith in strength. My people believed that only the strongest should rule, and so we vowed. Every warrior of my clan swore the same oath. I alone survive, and so I alone carry it. It is not freedom, but it is purpose, and without purpose, there is only death." Her words unsettled him. He had never thought of strength that way, never thought of purpose as something greater than choice. He had lived as a soldier who followed orders. Now he was the one giving them, though he did not want to, though he felt unworthy of it. One evening, as the two searched wreckage for supplies, they were met by scavengers, not warriors, not soldiers, but desperate men armed with stolen weapons. They saw Elias weak and Caliph towering, and they laughed. "Look, the human hides behind his alien dog. Is this the master she serves?" Elias froze, shame cutting him deep. But Caliph stepped forward like a storm, her blade rising, her eyes blazing. She spoke with fury. "Mock me if you wish, but speak of him again and you will not speak at all." The scavengers attacked, and Caliph was a whirlwind of steel. Cutting through them with unstoppable force, Elias fired his weapon clumsily, missing more than he hit, yet standing beside her, refusing to cower. When the fight ended, the scavengers lay broken, their laughter gone. Caliph turned to Elias, her armor dripping with battle dust, her voice quiet but sharp. "They saw weakness in you, but I saw courage you did not hide. You did not run, that is strength, not muscle, not fire, but something deeper." Elias looked at her, his chest tight, his hands shaking. He did not feel strong, but her words lit something inside him, a spark he could not deny. He realized that to her, strength was more than power, more than the blade. Strength could also be the will to stand when fear demanded he fall that night. As the fire burned low, Elias whispered to himself, "Maybe I can't break the vow. Maybe I can't push her away, but maybe I can try. Maybe I can learn to be what she sees." Caliph heard, though she did not speak, her eyes watching him through the flames, her heart unchanging, her vow unshaken. But something within her stirred, something beyond the vow, something that felt almost like choice and far across the stars. Unseen, enemies heard the whispers, enemies saw the shame, that the greatest warrior now followed a human. And they began to move, they began to hunt. The vow had chained Caliph to Elias, but the galaxy would chain them both to war. The news spread like fire through the stars. The strongest warrior of a fallen clan had bent her knee to a human soldier. It was unthinkable, it was shameful. It was a wound to alien pride, and across the dark corners of the galaxy, enemies whispered, enemies plotted, enemies sharpened their blades. They would not let this insult stand. The warrior did not speak of this. She only walked beside the human, silent, steady, her steps like thunder even on broken ground. Her glowing eyes always watching, her blade never far from her hand. She was bound to him, her vow a chain she could not break. And though the human tried again and again to tell her he was weak, she did not listen, her vow did not listen. The vow had chosen him. The human was no warlord, no commander of fleets. He was just one soldier, his armor cracked, his heart still heavy from battles lost, but something inside him was changing. He began to see that the alien warrior was not only guarding him, she was studying him, testing him, waiting to see if he was truly worthy of the vow that chained them together. One night, when the stars burned bright above a ruined world, she spoke, her voice like stone-breaking silence. They will come. They will hunt us. They will not forgive what has happened. You must be ready. The human laughed weakly, bitter in his tone. Ready? I can barely stand. I can barely hold a gun. I am not who you think I am. The warrior looked at him, her eyes sharp as blades. Strength is not always muscle. Strength is not always fire. Sometimes strength is something hidden, something waiting. I will find it in you, or we will die together. Before he could answer, a sound cut through the night. The sound of ships descending, the sky flashing with lights. Hunters had found them, alien soldiers sworn to erase the shame, sworn to kill the human who had stolen the loyalty of their greatest warrior. The warrior stood tall, her blade humming with power, her armor shining in the firelight. She looked at the human and spoke. Stay behind me, live, that is your command. And I will kill for you, but the human shook his head, something inside him refusing to hide. If I am truly bound to you, if I am truly the one your vow chose, then I cannot hide. I must fight too. The warrior's lips curved, not into a smile but into something sharper. Approval? Then fight, human, let me see your strength. The enemy came, their weapons glowing, their voices filled with rage. They mocked her. They mocked him. The strongest warrior follows a weak human. What a joke. What a shame. But the warrior did not flinch. She roared like thunder, and then she struck, her blade cutting through the night. Her movements faster than sight. She was a storm of steel and fire, each enemy falling like broken glass under her fury. The human fired his weapon, his aim not perfect, his body weak, but his mind sharp. He saw paths she could not see. He shouted warnings. He gave directions. Left, behind you, now strike, and each time, she listened, and each time her blade hit true. The hunters began to fall back, fear in their eyes, confusion in their voices. They could not understand. How could a human and a warrior fight as one? How could weakness and strength move together like a single blade when the battle ended? The ground was red, the night silent once more. The warrior stood breathing hard, her blade dripping, the human at her side, his hands shaking but his eyes steady. He had survived, not by hiding, but by fighting with her. The warrior looked at him long, her gaze heavy, and she said, You are not strong in the way I know, but there is something in you, something different, something I cannot name, and it grows. The human sat on the broken ground, tired, wounded, but he met her gaze. I am not the strongest, but if your vow keeps you here, then maybe I have to learn, maybe I have to become what you believe I am. Far above, unseen by them, another fleet was watching. The fleet of the warlord she once wished to follow, his eyes burning with fury as he saw her fight for a human, his voice cold as steel. So she bends to the weak, then I will come myself, and I will crush them both. The warrior felt the stars tremble, though she did not yet know why. She only felt the vow grow heavier. She only felt the bond between them grow tighter, and in the silence of the night she whispered to herself, The hunters are only the beginning. The true storm is coming, and the human, though he tried to sleep, could not rest, his mind burning with the image of the hunters, the image of the warrior fighting like a god, the image of himself standing beside her. He was afraid, but also something else, something new, a spark inside him whispering that maybe, just maybe, he could become more. The stars above were silent, the galaxy waiting, the vow unbroken, and in the shadows, the greatest enemy of all prepared to strike, for the hunt was only beginning. The days of silence ended. The whispers of hunters had grown into storms, and now the storm had arrived. Black ships cutting through the skies, Heavy with weapons, heavy with rage, they came not only to kill but to humiliate. To prove that the greatest warrior of a proud clan had fallen low by kneeling to a human, Caliph stood tall, her blade humming with a faint glow, her eyes fixed on the horizon, her voice calm but heavy with weight. He has come, the one I once thought I would serve, the one I once believed to be the strongest. He comes now to take me back. And to crush you! Elias felt his chest tighten, his hands trembling as he held his weapon. Then run if he is truly the strongest. Then your vow should take you to him, not to me. I won't stop you. Caliph turned her burning gaze on him, her voice like iron. The vow has already chosen Elias. And though my heart once longed to serve him, my soul is chained to you. If he wants me, he will have to kill you. And he will have to kill me as well. The sky split open as the warlord descended. His armor black as night, his frame massive, his presence heavy like a mountain pressing on the air. His soldiers lined the field, their chants shaking the ground, and with each step he took, the earth seemed to tremble. He looked at Caliph, then at Elias, his voice a booming thunder. So, this is the human who stole my blade. This is the weak creature you kneel to. Caliph, you shame yourself, you shame your clan. But I will free you, I will kill him, and you will be mine once more. Caliph raised her blade, her stance unshaken, her voice sharp as steel. You may call him weak, but he lives when others do not. He thinks when others only rage, he sees when others are blind. And so my vow is true, I will serve him, not you. The warlord's laughter shook the air, cruel and cold. Then let him prove it, let this human stand before me. Let him fight, and if he wins, I will leave. But if he loses, I will take his life and your loyalty. Elias felt the world crush him, his knees weak, his heart pounding like drums of war. He was no match for this giant. No blade of his could pierce that armor, no strength of his could match that fury. Yet Caliph's eyes burned into him, filled with something more than duty, filled with faith. Stand, Elias, stand and fight, not with strength, but with what only you carry, the warlord charged, his blade like fire, his strike shaking the ground. Elias barely rolled aside, his weapon firing, the blasts bouncing harmlessly off the warlord's armor. He was a mouse before a lion, and yet he kept moving, kept thinking, his mind racing even as fear cut through him. Caliph fought the soldiers, her fury unstoppable, her blade cutting down enemies in storms of sparks. But her eyes never left Elias, her heart caught between battle and faith. She had seen men break under less, but Elias did not break. He ran, he dodged, he shouted commands. He used the battlefield itself as his weapon. Fall back toward the wreckage, Elias yelled, his voice sharp. His mind alive with desperate clarity, Caliph obeyed. Luring soldiers toward the broken engines of a downed ship, Elias fired a single shot, igniting the fuel, the explosion roaring like a sun, wiping out half the enemy force in one strike. The warlord roared with fury, his eyes blazing. Tricks, human. Nothing but tricks. You are no warrior. But Elias stood tall now, his breath hard, his weapon steady. Maybe not. But I don't need to be you. I don't need to be strong like you. Strength isn't only muscle and fire. Sometimes strength is surviving. Sometimes it is using what others ignore. And sometimes it is standing when the whole galaxy wants you to fall. The warlord charged again. His strikes faster, deadlier. Elias barely escaped, his mind searching for one last answer, one last path. And then he saw it. The warlord's own pride, his refusal to guard his back, his belief that no human could ever harm him. Elias shouted, Caliph, now! She leaped, her blade striking where Elias had guided, piercing a joint in the warlord's armor left unguarded. The warlord roared in pain, stumbling, his massive blade crashing into the ground. Elias raised his weapon, aiming at the exposed crack, and fired, the blast cutting deep. The warlord fell to one knee, his voice still defiant but weakened. This is not victory, this is chance, this is nothing. But Caliph stood beside Elias, her blade ready, her voice steady. It is enough, you are defeated and you will leave, or you will die here. The warlord's soldiers hesitated, their chants fading, their faith shaken. They looked at Elias, at the human who stood unbroken, at the warrior who stood at his side, and they knew this battle was lost. The warlord glared at Elias with hate that burned like fire. This is not the end, human. I will return, and when I do, your tricks will fail you, and she will kneel to me at last. With that he turned, his soldiers dragging him back to his ship, the sky closing behind them. Silence falling once more, Elias fell to the ground, Exhausted, trembling, his chest heaving, he could not believe he still lived. Could not believe he had faced the warlord and survived. Kalith knelt beside him, her voice quiet, almost soft. You stood when no one else would? You fought when no one else could. That is strength, Elias. Do you still call yourself weak? Elias looked at her, his voice hoarse but steady. If that was strength, then maybe, just maybe, I can be more than I thought, but far away, in the black corners of space. The warlord's fury grew and he began to gather allies, began to prepare a storm greater than before. The clash of power was not the end. It was only the beginning. The battlefield lay quiet after the storm. The warlord defeated, his soldiers scattered, the wreckage burning under the cold light of distant stars. Elias sat against the ruins of a broken ship, his body trembling from exhaustion, his mind still reeling from what had just happened. Kalith stood over him like a sentinel of iron, her blade still humming, her armor scarred but unbroken, her glowing eyes fixed on him. And for the first time since their vow had bound them together, her voice softened. You lived, Elias. You stood against him, you did not fall. And now the galaxy will whisper your name. Elias shook his head, coughing, his voice rough. I did not win. Kalith, I only survived, I only used chance. If you had not struck when you did, he would have killed me. Kalith knelt, her massive frame lowering until her burning eyes met his weary gaze. That is not true. You saw his weakness. You guided my blade, you gave orders, and I obeyed. I have followed many commanders. I have fought beside many warriors, but none fought as you did. None used their mind as you did. Strength of body can be broken, but strength of will endures. Her words unsettled him. He felt no hero, no champion, just a man barely holding on, yet when she spoke, something inside him stirred, something that whispered he might be more than he believed. Days passed as they traveled across dead worlds and empty fields, Kalith hunting food, carrying Elias when his body failed, watching the skies for enemy ships, Elias repairing his weapon, learning the lay of the land, asking questions he had once been too afraid to ask, at night by the fire. Elias would study her, her armor dented but polished, her face sharp with alien lines yet strangely calm in the glow of the flames. Why do you still believe in this vow? Kalith, why follow it when it chains you to me, when it costs you everything? She answered with no hesitation, her voice low and steady. Because without the vow I am nothing. My people lived by it. They died by it. It gave us purpose, it gave us honor. I am the last of them. If I break it, then they are truly gone. Elias looked into the flames, his voice softer. Maybe, but I think there is more now, Kalith. Maybe it is not only the vow that keeps you here. Maybe you choose to stay. Her glowing eyes flickered, as if the thought pierced deeper than his weapon ever could. She did not answer at once, and for the first time Elias wondered if even she questioned the vow that chained her soul. The bond between them grew in silence and in fire. In battle and in breath when scavengers attacked again, Elias fought not as a weak soldier but as a partner, calling out moves, setting traps, striking with Kalith as though they were one blade in two hands, and she began to trust his commands, not because the vow demanded it, but because his choices saved them both. One night, as stars turned above and wind howled through the ruins, Kalith sat beside Elias, sharpening her blade, her voice low, almost gentle. You are not like the others I once called strong. They demanded obedience, they ruled through fear, they trusted only their own strength. But you, Elias, you carry fear and yet do not run. You are weak and yet you stand, you trust me. And that makes you stronger than you believe. Elias turned to her, his heart heavy with questions he could not ask, his voice barely a whisper. Then why do I still feel like nothing? Kalith looked at him long, her gaze unshaken. Because you see only what you were, not what you are becoming. Strength grows in silence. It grows in doubt, it grows in fire. And one day you will see it as I do. Her words lingered in him, burning like embers. And in that moment Elias realized something terrifying and powerful. He wanted her faith to be true. He wanted to become what she saw in him. Not because of the vow, but because of her. But shadows never rest. And far across the stars enemies whispered louder. Rival clans saw weakness in Kalith's choice. Warlords who had once respected her name now laughed, saying the greatest blade of her people had rusted in the service of a human. They gathered fleets, they sharpened plans. They swore to erase both her and Elias. The bond between them was growing stronger. But so too was the storm that sought to tear them apart as they slept that night. Kalith's hand resting lightly on her blade, Elias's mind restless with unspoken thoughts. A signal pulsed through the wreckage, unseen, unheard, carrying their location into the void, carrying their fate into the hands of enemies who would not stop until they were ashes. The bond had deepened, but now it would be tested, for trust and faith are strongest only when the world rises to break them. The days of quiet did not last. Silence was only the mask of danger, and in the shadows of broken worlds, betrayal was already moving. Elias and Calith had found temporary shelter inside the wreck of an ancient cruiser. Its hulls broken but strong enough to keep out the winds. Fires burned low at night, and for the first time since the vow had bound them, Elias felt almost safe, but safety is fragile, and trust is thinner than glass. Because not all who wandered the ruins were enemies. Some came as allies, or so they claimed. They met a band of survivors, humans and aliens together, ragged soldiers, broken refugees. They carried no banners of war, only the look of those who had lost too much. Their leader, a scarred man named Rin, bowed his head to Elias. "We have heard of you, the human who stands beside the blade of Calith. Let us travel together. Strength is better shared." Elias wanted to believe them, wanted to see hope in their eyes. And though Calith's gaze was sharp with suspicion, she bowed to his choice, for his word was her command. "If you trust them, Elias, then I will watch. And if they turn against us, my blade will answer." For a time, it seemed peace had returned. They traveled together, shared food, fought scavengers side by side. But in the whispers of night, Calith felt unease. She heard footsteps that were too quiet, eyes that lingered too long on Elias, voices that went silent when she drew near. One night she confronted Rin, her blade resting lightly in her hands, her eyes burning. "You walk beside us, but your loyalty is not true. Speak now, or I will tear the truth from your throat." Rin smiled, his scar pulling across his face. "You are sharp, warrior. Sharper than your master, but it is too late. The signal is already sent. The warlord knows where you are, and soon his chains will bind you both." Calith moved to strike, but soldiers hidden among the survivors drew their weapons. The hull of the cruiser erupted in fire. Betrayal had come at last. Elias fought, his weapon blazing, his voice sharp with orders. But there were too many, the air thick with smoke and betrayal. Calith cut down foes like lightning. But in the chaos, Elias was struck, dragged down, shackled. His cries echoing through the metal halls, Calith roared, her fury shaking the wreck. But she was forced back by waves of fire, her vow burning inside her, screaming to protect him, to obey him, but her body trapped in the tide of battle. Too many, too fast, too close. Rin stepped forward, holding Elias by the throat, his smile cruel. "You see, warrior, your vow has made you weak. You kneel to this fragile human, and now he is mine, and soon you will be too." When the warlord arrives, Calith's blade trembled, rage boiling in her chest, but her eyes locked on Elias, his breath ragged, his voice hoarse yet steady. "Calith, don't give in, don't kneel to them. If you have to choose freedom, not me." Her heart cracked at his words, her vow and her will clashing like thunder. She had sworn to serve the strongest. She had sworn to obey him, but for the first time, he was asking her to do the one thing her vow could never allow, to leave him. She fought harder, her blade a storm, her armor scorched, her body bleeding. But still she moved, still she cut a path, until finally she reached Elias, her arms lifting him with desperate strength, carrying him even as fire rained down. The traitors pressed closer, shouting, cursing, their numbers endless. Calith staggered under the weight of both Elias and her wounds. Yet she refused to fall, her voice breaking through the roar of battle. "I am bound, Elias, not only by vow but by choice. I will not leave you, not now, not ever." She reached the outer deck, the night sky burning with enemy ships, too many to fight, too many to escape. And in that moment, Calith made a choice that tore her soul. She set Elias down gently, her hand against his chest, her eyes blazing with fire and sorrow. "Forgive me, but I cannot keep both my vow and your life, so I will give mine." Before Elias could protest, she turned, her blade igniting with a fury brighter than the stars. She charged alone into the storm of soldiers, her roars shaking the deck, her strikes cutting like fire through flesh and steel. She fought like one who had nothing left to lose, like one who had already given everything. Elias cried out, struggling to rise, to follow. But chains bound him, wounds tore him, and all he could do was watch as Calith vanished into the blaze, her figure swallowed by fire and shadow. The last sound he heard was her voice, fierce and unbroken, echoing across the battlefield. You are my master. Elias, but more than that, you are my choice, and I will serve that choice until death. Then the night swallowed her, and silence fell heavy, leaving Elias in chains, his heart shattered, his fate uncertain, and the galaxy turning once more toward war. The fire still burned in the night sky, broken ships falling like dying stars. The battlefield was a grave of smoke and steel. Elias lay in chains, his breath shallow, his heart heavy, his eyes searching for Caliph in the storm, but she was gone, swallowed by fire and shadow. He remembered her last words, her voice fierce, "You are my master, Elias, but more than that, you are my choice." Those words echoed in his mind like thunder, and he realized she had given everything, not because of the vow, but because of him. But the war was not over. The warlord's fleet loomed above, his soldiers crawling across the wreck like locusts. Elias was dragged before them, his body broken, his spirit flickering, yet his eyes still burning with stubborn fire. The warlord descended, his black armor glowing with rage, his voice heavy as mountains. "The blade is gone, the vow is broken, and you, human, are nothing. Your weakness will end here." Elias raised his head, chains clinking, his voice weak but steady. "You don't understand, she was never broken. Her vow lives through me, her choice lives through me, and as long as I breathe, you will never own her." The warlord laughed, cruel and cold. "You speak of strength, but you are dying, you are dust, and when I crush you, her spirit will return to me before the blade could fall." The night split apart. A roar louder than thunder shook the air. Caliph returned, her body torn, her armor shattered, but her blade still burning, her eyes glowing like fire against the dark. She had fought through legions, bled through shadows, and still she lived. She landed between Elias and the warlord, her voice a storm. "You will not touch him. You will not take him. My vow is mine, my choice is mine, and I will bind it in blood if I must." The warlord roared and struck, his blade a mountain of fire. Caliph met it with fury, her body breaking under the force, but her will unshaken. Elias watched, chains binding him, yet in his mind a spark flared. He remembered every word she had told him, every lesson, every glance of faith, and he realized he could not be weak anymore. With trembling hands he pulled at the chains, every link biting into his flesh. But he refused to stop, he refused to kneel, his mind sharper than steel, his will harder than stone. And with a final cry he broke free, blood pouring from his wrists, but freedom burning in his heart. He grabbed a fallen weapon, weak hands gripping tight, and shouted, "Caliph, strike now!" Caliph heard him, her blade moved in harmony with his voice. She turned the warlord's strike aside. Opening his guard, Elias fired with everything he had left, the blast cutting through the wound Caliph had already carved. The warlord staggered, roaring in fury and disbelief. Caliph did not hesitate. Her blade flashed one final time, cutting through armor, through rage, through pride, and the warlord fell, the ground shaking with his weight. His army silent, their chants dead, their faith broken. Silence fell, heavy and wide, the smoke drifting. The stars watching, Caliph stood trembling. Her body near collapse, Elias staggered to her side, catching her as she fell to her knees. His voice breaking, "Caliph, stay with me. You can't leave now, not now." Her eyes burned weak but steady, her voice soft yet unyielding. "Elias, I vowed to serve the strongest. But I see now, strength is not fire, not fury, not muscle. Strength is standing when the world says fall. Strength is trust. Strength is choice. And my choice is you, always you." Elias held her close, tears burning his eyes. "Then stay, Caliph. Stay and live, not for the vow, but for us." She smiled faintly, the first true smile he had ever seen, her voice like fading fire. "I will because I am bound, not by vow, not by chains, but by my heart. And hearts are stronger than any blade." The enemy soldiers lowered their weapons. Fear and awe in their eyes, they saw the warlord dead. They saw the warrior and the human standing together, and they knew the galaxy had changed. No vow, no chain, no pride could erase what they had just witnessed. Word spread across the stars. The tale of Caliph and Elias, the warrior who chose a human, the human who rose from weakness, together defeating the strongest, and the galaxy laughed no more. The galaxy began to fear, to respect, to whisper their names in awe. As the fires dimmed and the night grew still, Elias and Caliph stood together, scarred, broken, but unbroken in spirit, bound forever, not by duty, not by chains, but by choice, by trust, by something even stronger than war. And so the story of the vow ended, but the story of them had only begun.